Hello, my name is Thiemo Wambsganss, and I'm happy today that I can present you our research about adaptive empathy learning support in peer review scenarios. This research has been conducted with my co-authors Matthias Soellner, Kenneth Koedinger, and Leimeister. In today's agile work environments, in everyday discussions, or in teamworks, we see that facts are not only the key ingredient to lead a team or persuade the opponent, but it's rather the way how you can interact with people and your emotional abilities to understand their conditions, their feeling, their opinions, and then to act appropriately. The rise of so-called skills, emotional skills and abilities is also depicted in the OECD learning framework for the 21st century learner, where besides knowledge and personal development, skills such as communication, emotional skills, abilities such as empathy play a major role for the teaching of the 21st century student. According to a quote by Barack Obama, empathy is the biggest deficit we have in our society, and we are in great need of people who are able to stand in somebody else's shoes and see the world through their eyes. When we look at research on empathy skills, we see that empathy skills of young college students has decreased by about 30% in the last years. And one of the main reasons, as the authors say, is the rapidly increasing digital communication among young people. In our research, we aim to investigate if adaptive empathy support during a persuasive writing exercise helps students to increase their empathy skill level and maybe their learning experience. When training empathy, it's very important to look at the different constructs which exist in the literature about empathy. There is no common empathy model or definition. In fact, a lot of authors in the last years have defined empathy from different cultural backgrounds, from different angles. In our research, we basically follow the definition by Davis et al. 1983, which says that empathy is the ability to simply understand the other's perspective and to react to the observed experience of another. And here we focus on two different components of empathy. First, emotional empathy, which is the ability to perceive what other people feel, and cognitive empathy, which is the ability to recognize and understand the other individuals and act appropriately. In our research, we aim to analyze the hypothesis that adaptive empathy feedback on students' cognitive and emotional empathy level will foster their empathy writing skills in peer learning scenarios. In order to do so, we constructed a pedagogical scenario where students write a certain peer review to students and receive feedback on the cognitive and emotional empathy level. In order to design our tool, we conducted extensive literature review from different perspectives, from education technology, from psychology, and human-computer interaction to understand how to design an empathy learning support tool in the scenario of peer reviews. Based on different learning perspectives, for example, adaptive feedback, learner control, we conducted interviews with students in order to ensure that we based our requirements on the user, which is the student in this case, and ensure that no harm is done with our definition of empathy and maybe with the way how we give feedback. Based on different user requirements and certain design principles, we then designed our user interface of our learning tool. The backend of the tool consisted of a machine learning model where we relied on a corpora, which we previously published at the ACL conference, where we modeled cognitive and emotional empathy of students in German written peer reviews. The basic user interaction worked like this. A student would receive a task to read a certain business model and then was asked to write about the strengths, weaknesses, and improvement suggestions for an imaginary peer. After writing the three components, the student would click on the Analyze button and receive an adaptive empathy feedback. By clicking on the explanation button, he would get information on how the machine learning model gave feedback on an empathy scale. Based on different feedback mechanisms such as a summarizative score, adaptive feedback messages, and categorical overview, he could then decide to adjust his written text. For example, in this case, provide more emotions about the student's strength. After that, he would click on the Analyze button again and see how his text improved. we conducted an experiment with 119 students. Students of the control group used a learning tool with dictionary-based empathy feedback based on an approach by Santos et al. 2018. Students in the treatment group received adaptive empathy feedback based on our machine learning and natural language processing model. In a pre-test, we conducted certain randomization checks, such as personal innovativeness and feedback seeking of individuals. And in the post-test, we measured technology adaptation constructs and assessed the cognitive and emotional empathy quality of the students' peer reviews. Moreover, we measured the perceived empathy skill learning, feedback currency, and level of enjoyment to control the learning exercise and to measure the influence of our learning tool on students' learning perception. We saw that students who received adaptive empathy feedback based on our machine learning model had a higher level of emotional empathy in their texts compared to students who only received dictionary-based feedback. However, we did not see a significant effect in the cognitive empathy level between students of the control and treatment group. Also, the perceived empathy skill learning of students, the subjective learning measurement, was significantly higher for students of the treatment group compared to students of the control group. This indicates that adaptive empathy feedback based on the cognitive and emotional empathy level fosters students to write more emotionally appropriate texts to students, however, does not affect the cognitive empathy. Also, we saw significant effects for various perception measurements, such as intention to use, perceived usefulness, and level of enjoyment. With our results, we show an approach on how to leverage machine learning and natural language processing to support students in fostering empathy skills in student-written peer reviews. However, our approach comes with a lot of limitations concerning bias, concerning user groups, and concerning the understanding of the empathy construct. First of all, our results and our design and evaluation is only based on learners from the particular pedagogical scenario of peer reviews in German language. Other languages, other domains, other pedagogical scenarios might require certain design adaptations, for example, through a different understanding of empathy in different cultures, in different pedagogical scenarios or other user domains. Also, the feedback algorithm, the corpus, and the entire design is biased from a Western European team of researchers. Also, we have to say that our tool is designed for the average students of the particular pedagogical scenario where we conducted our evaluation. This comes with a lot of drawbacks and possibilities to exclude certain user groups, such as minorities, for example, from the autism spectrum. Hence, we call for future research to investigate basically on what bias or possible harm such a tool has on other user groups. Thanks a lot for watching and happy researching.